Here we are at our complementary and supplementary angles. Now, before we dive into some examples, we're going to go ahead and talk about our definitions. And so complementary angles are two angles such that when they form together, they give you a 90-degree measure. So for example, if I combined a 30-degree angle with a 60-degree angle, when I bring those two together, I should get a full 90 degrees. So that's what we call complementary angles when they're 90 degrees. Supplementary angles, however, when you bring those together, their sum measures 180 degrees. So the bigger of the two. And so here's a great example where 135 comes together with 45. You do end up with the full 180 degrees. So just those two quick definitions. Now, for example 1, we're asked to tell whether the angles are complementary, supplementary, or neither. There are definitely cases where when you combine two angles together, they're just maybe neither of the two. So 70 degrees, when we bring that together with this angle measure of 110 degrees. Well, all that we really have to do here is just add the two together. And so when I bring 70 and 110, you get 0 there. 7 plus 1 is 8. And then lastly, you get 180 degrees. So when it's 180 degrees like that, we have supplementary angles. Now for B, when we bring those two together, 49 plus 41, well, it's a little bit too small to be supplementary, but maybe they're complementary. 9 plus 1, we get the 0. We got to carry the 1 there. Then 1 plus 4 gives us 90 degrees. So we do, in fact, get complementary angles. Now, when we look at C, we have 128 and 62. Well, 8 plus 2, we get a 10. We have to carry the 1. Don't forget that part. It's commonly missed. And then 1 plus 2 plus 6, we get a 9 there. And then the 1 has nothing to combine with. So we end up then with 190 degrees. And that's actually neither. So it's close to supplementary. And if we didn't carry this 1 over here, then you would have gotten that supplementary. But in this case, it is in fact neither. Now for our next example, 26 degrees and 64. Bringing these guys together. And adding, we end up with a 0 there, which is good. Carry the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 6 is 90 degrees. So again, that is complementary. For our next one, we have 44 rather, just 44 degrees, plus 136. Just be careful of the placement. Don't accidentally shift this 4 over there. That would be a mistake. So just be careful of where you're putting your values. Make sure you're lining them up where they should be. 6 plus 4, we get 0. Carry the 1. And then 1 plus 3 is 4, plus another 4 is 8. And then nothing can be combined with that 1, so we have 180 degrees, which is supplementary. And that just stands for angles. 70 degrees plus 19 degrees. That's going to be a 9. And right away you can determine, hey, this is neither, just because it's not ending in that 0. But for the sake of just combining our two angles together, we get 89 degrees, which is neither. Moving on, now we have to actually go ahead and find x. And these are more questions which you're going to encounter in geometry in high school. So we know for a fact that these are going to be either complementary and supplementary angles, just based on what they give us. And we have to write an equation in order to find the missing angle. So we know that for this first one, for number 4, that these two angles, when brought together, that is 180 degrees. These are supplementary angles. And as a result, since we know that they're supplementary angles, my equation is going to be 136 plus some x equals 180 degrees. In other words, when I combine these two angles together, I finally end up with the 180. And now, in order to solve for x, I just need to solve like we've normally done in the past. So we're going to subtract 136 from both sides. This cancels out. We're left then with the x equals 180 minus 136. That comes out to be 44 degrees. So boom, we just found x. For our next one, we notice that we have this 90-degree angle measure, which we know that is 90 right there when it shows that little square in the angle corner. And as a result, we're going to take our two angles then and set them equal to 90 degrees. So we have x plus 74 equals 90 degrees. And again, we're going to go ahead and solve for x. To do that, we're going to subtract 74 from both sides. Those will cancel, leaving us with just our x equals 90 minus 74 comes out to be 16 degrees. Now for number 6, we know that they're saying that the measure of angle 1 is 42 degrees. So right here, boom, that's 42. And unfortunately, we don't know angle measure 2. But we do know that these are complementary angles because we see that little square indicating that this is, in fact, 90 degrees. So to find the measure of angle 2, our equation part, what it's going to look like is 42. Now this time, notice how we don't have like an x here, right? Just as angle 2 right there. In order to create your equation, you're actually going to say plus angle 2 equals the 90 degrees because, again, we know it's complementary. Okay, so that's some of the notation you're getting more familiar with. And to be really technical, it's even like you have an m there, measure of angle 2. Now, to solve, it's just like before. You would just subtract this over the known to get the unknown. So measure of angle 2 comes out to be 38 degrees when you subtract that. So that would be your answer on that. Now again, question super similar, but here you know that this straight line is going to give you 180 degrees because it's supplementary. And they're telling us that the measure of angle 1 is 65 degrees. These don't always necessarily have to be to scale, and that's why creating the equation and solving is so important. So to set up our equation, we have 65 degrees plus the measure of angle 2 is going to combine to give us that 180 degrees that we need. So in other words, this angle plus this angle gets us that full angle. And again, we're just going to subtract like before. 65's cancel. We're left then with the measure of angle 2, which we don't yet know, is equal to, and it looks like on the other side we have 115 degrees when you subtract that. For number 8, again, these are supplementary, so we know it's going to add up to be 180 degrees. So we're going to take our two angles and add them together, so 85. Okay, this is our equation part. 85 degrees plus x equals 180. And to solve for x, we're going to go ahead and subtract 85 degrees from both sides. 85s will cancel, so then we're left with x by himself equals 95 degrees. And lastly, number 9. These are complementary because we have that 90-degree angle marked there. So we know that these are going to be 90 degrees. And to get the measure of angle x, which we don't know, we're going to combine those two together. So we have x plus 37 degrees for our equation is equal to 90 degrees. Because again, if I take this angle and I combine that angle, I get my full 90 degrees that I need. To solve for x, we're going to subtract 37 from both sides. Here it's gone, leaving us with just x equals, in this case, it looks like we get 53 degrees. But again, though, that is talking about complementary and supplementary angles as well as just solving for missing angles using some of those properties.